The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed during this or any broadcast belong solely to our guests or our hosts. These broadcasts do not represent or reflect the views of their employers, sponsors, or affiliated organizations.
Welcome to the Flipboard EDU podcast with your host, William Jeffrey, where we collaborate, communicate, and educate with the greatest educators in the world on Flipboard. Let's start the show.
Welcome back, Flipboard fam. This is your favorite coach, Coach Jeffrey. And as the NBA playoffs begin, this past week, I just can't help but think about the challenges that coaches and players are experiencing due to COVID-19. I watched my daughter play junior varsity basketball while wearing a mask, sitting 6 feet away from the nearest teammate when she wasn't on the court. As a former basketball coach, I can only imagine the difficulties associated with motivating youth during this pandemic. One of my best friends and colleagues, Coach Marcus Gabriel, joins us for this episode as we discuss another aspect of student engagement, extracurricular activities. Although basketball may see a small portion of student body participation, it can be the main attraction in some communities in the American educational system. This episode discusses coaching basketball in the COVID-19 era and how the pandemic has affected competition, camaraderie, and school morale. We also discuss how students adjusted to the COVID-19 protocols during competition and talk about how we became friends as coaches and the importance of building relationships with fellow coaches and players. So like we always do at this time, let's collaborate, communicate, and educate with the best educators in the world right here on Flipboard EDU Podcast. Welcome back, Flipboard fam. This is your favorite coach, Coach Jeffrey, and I have another amazing guest here. I have one of my best friends in the whole wide world, Coach Marcus Gabriel. Welcome to the show. So, man, let's go ahead and jump right into it. This podcast is geared towards coaching basketball in the pandemic. But before we get started on that, can you tell our listening audience a little bit about yourself?
I'm originally from California. I went to a prestigious college in Virginia known as Hampton University. Graduated a sports management major. Moved down here with an outside sales job with a company. Hated it. I decided I wanted to go a different direction. With the guidance of my grandmother, who always said I had a gift for working with children. And 40 days in my job with this outside sales company, I realized I hated it. And it was almost like I had a divine interaction in the car where I decided I wanted to pursue education. And in that process, I quit my job as an outside sales rep, started working at a wonderful company named Enterprise Rental as a management trainee, and pursued education on the side, got certified, and it actually ended up being someone who helped me pass such special education test through Enterprise, who was just happened to be a customer. And that just Enterprise opened up some doors for me to start my career. Couldn't do that without the man upstairs, obviously, and it allowed me to work at my calling. Been in education for 12 years. I've been a basketball coach, head basketball coach for 6. I've been an assistant for 6. My first job was not traditional. I accepted a job at Scarborough High School, I want to say on a Wednesday. Said I was interested in coaching basketball in assistant capacity. And I want to say Thursday or Friday, he called me back and said, congratulations, you're the next head coach. Had no idea what I was getting into. Had no idea what this was going to look like. And I wasn't ready to be a head coach, but an opportunity opened. And you got to take advantage of those opportunities. That allowed me to cut my teeth into the world of basketball as an infant. And I took some baptisms. Some are from yours truly, and he can always bring the game back if he wants to. The games, anyway. That's what my record with him is 0-2. I won 1 and 2. We scrimmaged when we were at slaughtered. But that's not the purpose of the show today. But loving family, wife and a young son who he's up next. And just fortunate enough to be here and be a part of a great organization now as a head coach again. Went to Bush as an assistant for 6 years, which we'll talk about and get into the legend I worked with there. And now currently in Cypress Ridge High School as a head boys basketball coach for the last 3 years.
Okay. I just want to recap some things there that you said in there. Let's go back to how we met. We met on a very particular circumstance. How do you remember meeting me, and why did we even become friends after that?
That's not a traditional way to become friends either. I meet you at a Scarborough High School. You emailed me asking me about playing a game. I responded and said sure and gave some dates and the whole nine. And here I am practicing with my team out here on the track. And an officer comes there and says, hey, you got a team here that's play you. And I say, today? I believe it had to be a Tuesday. And I said, we don't have any games scheduled. Well, coach has got all three of his teams here. And I leave the track with the kids and walk up there, and here I meet Coach Jeffrey. And I told him, Coach, sorry for misunderstanding, but we didn't sign up for a game. And at that point, you already knew, like, I know how to regulate this conversation. You show me your cell phone and show me the email correspondence where I confirmed to the game. And at that point, I felt like the smallest person in the room. When you want to go somewhere, anywhere else but there would have been great. And I just remember being really apologetic and you being very humble and taking that with dignity and with class and exchanging numbers from there. And at that time, HISD, we were the young guys on the block. And there were some older guys that didn't give us very much respect at that particular junction. And they actually didn't even talk to us. We had to stick together. And you took me as the neophyte of the HISD coaches and really helped me through the first year. And also just as a career, and just our relationship manifests from there because we have families together. And we have families that know each other. Families, weddings, birthday parties, we've done it. Yeah. And that the manifestation of that relationship started off something so tragic, which would be anything counter to an actual relationship. It was anything far from that. That's because of your humility and ability to recognize someone who did not know what the hell they were doing. I remember when we came over there with the three teams because it was like one of the games that I could actually win with the young players that I had on my team. And I want to shout out to the young players that I coached when I was learning how to coach basketball and all of the bumps and bruises that we took. I should have been out recruiting. That's basically what I should have never started 5'5" and 5'4" and all. You were beautiful, nice kids. If you listen to this, you were a great kid, but it's hard to win basketball games when, you know, you're that height. But we knew it would be a game when we played Scarborough. You know what? Going back to camaraderie before the pandemic, coaching was a little bit different. And I can remember, and I'm going to go ahead and call it out, there was some arrogance that I noticed in some coaches that I really didn't understand why, because it's not like we playing the game. It's if your team is just, if you're down in a bad year, that's what happens, especially in coaching. They say it's only two types of coaches. One's getting hired and one's getting fired. I don't understand how people would take the stance that they took with us, but they treated us badly. I think the interesting part about it is life is funny because as life changes and things happen, it circumvents itself in a different way. Because some people who were not particularly respectful to us as young coaches or to our ability was the only thing that made a difference between us and them was the discrepancies and the differences in talent. Who lived in their zip code? Who lived in your feeder pattern? And who was willing to pay someone's rent for them to live in your feeder pattern. Oh, we're going to talk about that, though. We're going to talk about it. So I think that was always interesting. And then what became funny is when you start beating some of those guys and those games are no longer blowouts, the conversations, the position stayed the same, but you had to give me my respect. They had to give you a respect because we come into work every day with our heart ready to work just as much. And we had kids that were phenomenal as far as buying in, more so than I've had in years, even when we had top talent in the state. Yeah. Some of those Scarborough Davis teams had kids whose heart and actual value as it related to life and basketball is untouchable. I always call Scarborough the foundation of who I am and who I am, and never ashamed of it. And I think you could attest to the same thing that, you know, without those experiences, we don't grow, we don't get better. We don't see things the way we see it now. And when I moved into different schools, I was related to Scarborough because I was a Title I school. And I remember you had situations before games where somebody was just leaving the penitentiary to come back to school. Yep. We went through it. And I always say this, I've lost enough basketball games to know how to lose them. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know if there's a way that I don't know how to lose a basketball game. You know what I'm saying? From you name it, I can figure it out. So I know what losing looks like, but you know what that taught me? That taught me to be a coach. That taught me to be introspective. That taught me to lean on my family, because as a coach, your structural family support is so important after you've given your, and the thing is, do you give your all? Should you be giving your all? That's the real question that coaching really has to boil down to. And I want to move it to the pandemic and get the talk going. Me and you could talk about the past in a long time. We did have COVID-19 in the pandemic, sir. Let's talk about some of your experiences. I just want to, how was it coaching basketball during this pandemic?
It was difficult. I think it was the most difficult year I've ever had as a coach. Primarily because you had to count so many different things that you never thought about before. How many minutes a kid was around another kid, potentially. How many seconds counting down and doing COVID protocol, and having to count and look at every kid individually as it relates to a potential contact risk, and trying to figure out, could they potentially be sent home? Could they have COVID? Or even in something so even more generic as like a kid had bad allergies, something they need to get tested. What are the symptoms that you have? Kids not wearing their mask. Kids arguing about wearing their mask. Parents arguing about that. And your people's thought process on that can be different. But at the end of the day, the school and the CDC and the school district had guidelines as it relates to mask wearing and COVID and contract tracing that made it mandatory for you to wear it in order to participate. And to even watch game films and see some of your younger kids in stands during a varsity game not wearing masks, it would elevate your blood pressure immediately. It'll elevate your level of thinking, like where you just couldn't think about just the game of basketball and strategies, the normal things. You had to think about a whole other set of issues. It made you lean on your coaches more. It made you change the structure of practice. It made you change some of the things you want to do. You want to buy your kids food, and you want to do the things you used to do. We didn't have a banquet this year, in part mostly because of COVID. And you want to send your seniors out the right way and buy and do all these things in big, large group settings. You're not able to do that. So it definitely requires some ingenuity, being innovative as far as finding different ways to celebrate and acknowledge people, but also managing not just your kids, but your coaches, and not wanting your coaches to be a contact or get sick on your watch. Worrying about the side effects of kids who were asthmatic, kids who had personal illness issues that could be a higher risk than just the normal 2-week layoff of being quarantined COVID. And then more than that, or anything, is just as a coach, you take basketball so serious, which doesn't mean you want to bring anything home with your family. And understanding you have a family. And at that particular time, my father who is living with us, not want him to catch something because you went to work. How do you think like that and worry about coaching? The bigger picture. And missing games, how do you make up games you miss, was minute compared to, am I getting somebody sick? Is someone going to miss out on a game? Is a senior going to miss out on their senior night? Because is a family going to miss out on seeing their kids? You know, there were so many things you didn't account for. So practice time and strategy was big. Communication with the administration was also huge. But also working with just the structure of implementing safety plans and protocols to minimize the amount of contract tracing is huge. And then not getting so caught up in blinding in competition that someone on another team may have something. And if you get a report or somebody comes back and tells you, hey, such and such from such a school tested positive for COVID-19, we need to count and break down the actual game, see how many minutes your kid was around this particular individual, and does it exceed more than 15 minutes? Because if that's the case, you have to send that kid home. And then be prepared if he has or she has COVID. Now you got to do contract tracing on your own campus amongst who was around him. And I think that just made it just a different challenge. The game this year was not as fun because you were so concerned and overwhelmed as a coach with the safety of your kid, and then the safety of your staff, and then the safety of you, and then what you bring home to your family. Communicating with parents was pivotal. How receptive some parents were, that varied. But trying to get everyone on the same page, I think, was positive because there were rules and were standards put in place from our school district and from our campus to try to minimize the risk as much as humanly possible. And that gave you some reassurance. But there's still always precaution because one bad cough, one bad sneeze, everybody pauses in the room.
One of the issues that was very different, that was really huge in COVID-19 was the contact tracing. And I don't know if many people outside of education understands the contact tracing concept, that if a student came within 6 feet or sometimes 3 feet of someone without a mask for 15 minutes or more, they were sent home for 10 to 14 days, depending on if they showed symptoms. If you show no symptoms after 10 days, they can come back. But if they show symptoms, then there would be another 14 days. So with all of that going on, are you guys going into the next year? Will you guys be using masks next year, or is it voluntary?
The district is follow what our governor has said as far as mask mandate, but TA is still trying to decide. My thought process would be if kids still want to wear masks, that's what their comfort zone is. They will have the opportunity to do, just like they have the opportunity to learn from home. I think COVID will still be an issue to some degree, and people are learning to live and move on. But there's still precautions that need to be taken. I don't know what the new normal will be. I think it'll be the new normal. Some people will always wear masks. Some people will always social distance. Some people will always be remote. And what we have to be mindful of with the kids that we service is that the social part of education can't be dismissed. Kids need to have social interactions, and sometimes isolation can deteriorate the educational process, but also the social norm process as well, and allowing kids to find different ways to do that. Zoom is the one way. I mean, Flipboard can be another way. But finding different ways to make education still relevant and innovative and still appealing to get kids engaged is all part of our new normal.
Yeah. And just thinking about that, the opportunity, there's some opportunities in education to do some good changes. I know going into, as a parent, because my daughter was playing basketball, and watching her play basketball in the mask was something, as an old basketball coach, I'm watching, and it was hard for her to do. I didn't advise her to do that. Something she did on her own, but just the difference in how many people would be led into the gym, who can come to the gym on home games, who can come to the gym on away games. How did you guys handle that?
There was a cap at a number. Safety protocols were followed, and the places were X'd off, and spacing was enforced. And everybody on the sideline had to wear a mask and go into games to take off the mask. And they were all, by all means, you could have kept the mask on you in the game, but similar to you, I just think it's almost like doing resistance training on top of trying to play basketball as you're breathing through a gaiter or a mask and trying to play. And I commend the kids and the coaches that were able to do it, because for me as a coach, it was hard to coach with the mask on. You still make the adjustments because you're the model that kids are looking at as far as the adaptation to wearing masks and the safety protocol. So ultimately started with you. I think as the year went on, it got better because you learn from early mistakes. Let's say you travel to another school and you saw how protocols were not being met, and then you see the ramifications of that 3 to 5 days later. And then you learn things that you're not going to do as a school and as a district. But I felt like our district guidelines, safety guidelines, were very good and implemented as a staff on campus. And even just simple things like the freshman games are over, typically you'd ask the freshmen to stay. Let's go home. If you're waiting on a game, space out. I don't come into the gym until the fourth quarter, and even then you're spaced out, and your glass is still on, and trying to make little adjustments to make and mitigate the amount of exposure, and then to try to make contract tracing more definitive in that.
Now, I'm going to talk about leadership because I got on my Coach Jeffrey shirt. You see it, I'm from the bush. So I'm going to tell everybody a little quick story about me and you, because we talked about our friendship in the beginning. You said leadership starts with you. So we used to play some really close games back and forth when we were coaching HISD. Of course, you never officially beat me in a real game, although you are one of the best coaches that I have ever met. So I will say that I got that on you. And when you get into the Hall of Fame, sir, when I get to speak, because I'm going to speak, and maybe I'll say the benediction. All right. I'm going to say that in the prayer. Thank you. He never got a chance to beat me officially, except that one time in the gym that nobody knew about. But let's go back to that. But it wasn't official.
Know the score. You
were so ready to do that. But anyway, as I get back to the story, I was at my wit's end at my job. I just was burnt out. I wasn't prepared to just be at that school anymore. As a matter of fact, I was going to give up on education. And I want to thank you because for some reason you called me out of the blue one morning and say, hey, man, I got a spot for you here with the Hall of Fame coach, Ronnie Courtney. You could be on our staff because I had been talking to you after you had left for the year and y'all had all kind of NBA prospects, NBA talent on your team, D1 athletes. And I wasn't used to that. I wasn't getting that where I was at. And he was like, hey, man, at the end of the year, we may have an opening. Bam. And then you just called me one day when I was at my lowest and you said, hey, man, we got a spot. And I turned you down. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were crazy. You wanted to get out of education.
Yeah, man, I'm going to get out of education, man. I'm not going to do it. And then if it was not for you saying to me, hey, man, I really think that you can recharge your batteries over here with Coach Ronnie Courtney. And he changed both of our lives. So I don't think that we can actually talk about coaching without talking about him and the impact that he had on us by growing us. Now, we were already varsity head coaches, but by the time I got over there, man, I realized I didn't know what I was doing from watching him. So what was your experience with working with Coach Courtney?
Wow. When you in our predicament and, I won't talk about I bugged him to get an opportunity to work. And I asked the associate head coach of U of H, who were the best three coaches in the area. And he said, Greg Wise, Ronnie Courtney, and Royce Houston. And I took it upon myself while I was still a Scarborough to go see every last one of them and meet and talk with them and try to pick their brains. And in meeting him, it was instantly like we clicked, at least for me. And I wanted to be a part of what he was doing. The humility he had as he walked in to work and to talk to me as a young coach was second to none. And fast forwarding to actually getting a job and getting accepted and being his assistant, his first assistant, and not knowing anything and learning how to manage basketball and manage people and how to manage talent was the experience of a lifetime. Here I go from a team where we went 6-20. And now, fast forward, you're on at George Bush, where you have Chandre Jones, who went to the University of Richmond, who is a prolific college player and a prolific high school player. Kelly Oubre, who is on the Golden State Warriors, is on this team, and he's not even the best player. And Brandon Jones is probably the best athlete I've ever, all sports considered. You have JJ, who is in the NFL, and you have Edie Ewing, who do. You have Ganaway, who went to Southern, and you have all these kids. I think I just rattled off 7 kids and you see the talent and how he managed the talent. And he had so much structure that in those moments, you learn how he dealt with critical situations. The more critical situation, the better he got. And his first year, you're playing these guys called the Harrison twins, who are McDonald's All-American, and we're in the same district. And you remember going and looking in these stadiums and going, I never knew basketball looked like this. Never seen it on this level. And he's beating them. We're beating them 3 times in a row. And just end up losing the last one because Andrew Harrison said enough was enough. And when you got a pro player, sometimes they do that and enough is enough. And you're looking on that experience and going like, I'm in a regional championship at the Campbell Center with an opportunity to go to state my first year as an assistant coach. I didn't understand what it was like to be a head coach other than roughing it and learning myself and going to clinics and seeking some other knowledge. But seeing what it was, taking a back seat and learning how to be a good assistant was what he did. We would have good confrontation because those confrontations we had as coaches were, he would say, older brother, younger brother. I'm not that old to be his younger brother. I'm older like his son. He would beg to differ, but that's okay. Is what helped me grow. Like he allowed me to go home during Christmas break every year to go see my family. Like miss tournaments, miss games. Like you got to go home. Don't come here by. And that's the part that people never really got to understand about him was he used to go over there for Thanksgiving. I went over there single. I went over there with my girlfriend at the time. And he ingratiates you into his family and he exposes you to things. And I got to see basketball on a totally different level and I never turned back. And I remember him telling me, I want you to be better than me. And when you're a bridge builder as a leader and you're working with people and you tell people up front what your goals are for them and it doesn't come off as out of conceit or wanting to sabotage, it's actually genuine. Genuinely wants you to be better as a man, genuinely wants you to be better as a husband, genuinely wants you to be better as a coach. when you do that, even in the times where you don't like each other, you love each other, but you don't like each other, you still see the bigger picture. And what he did for us is he showed us basketball like I never seen before. Because the first year you came, we went back to the regional finals without Kelly Oubre. And had we had Kelly, we would have walked all the way to state and won a state championship. Probably would have lost the game. And you got to see it. And be there, and I think you ended up getting a job the year after that. Like, you didn't have to stay at Bush very long because there was other things on the horizon for you as you were going your career. But what I think he deposited in both of us was the leadership qualities of being able to literally go out there and manage and get the best out of kids. And the things he does not get credit for is, one, he has a guy that works at Discount Tires at Jeff Davis that he's still in contact with to this day, that still looks out for him. Wasn't on the Jeff Davis teams with the Carl Crawford and those guys. On another team, similar to your Jeff Davis team, now known as Northside, and my Scarborough team. So those kids matter just as much as those NBA players, man, who just rattled off, because a lifetime relationships. And you would always say at the end of the day, if they don't remember you, then what did you do? There's things where he gave kids money out of his pocket to make sure they had some eat. And he still does it now. He's in Marshall. And here you are you're in 40 years into basketball, and you're still giving to kids. And what he's always tried to steal with me was, when you give, you don't ever have to worry about going without, because you know where your blessings are coming from. And that's probably something he doesn't get credit for, or to get the best out of kids, the X's and O's, when he puts things together, the demand he puts on kids. You see that part. And him, what he would say, he used to be a tyrant, but we all know better. But him stretching and getting the best out of you to prepare you for college, to prepare you for life, prepare you, if you're not going to college, prepare you to go to work. He has a unique way of doing that, which I consider him. He's my GOAT. He's special for a reason. I told him I'm forever chasing this coattail, and I'll probably never catch him. But he is, the pillar to, I want to say, you are an assistant principal right now. You're on his coaching tree. I know two other coaches other than myself that are head coaches that were on his coaching tree. And you don't get that very often out of one coach. And I know that's what makes him special, men amongst men, for me. And genuine love when I talk about Ronnie Courtney ever.
Yeah, most definitely. So my experience with Ronnie Courtney started when I first became the head basketball coach at Jeff Davis, because he had left Jeff Davis 10 years earlier. And everybody was still talking about this man 10 years later. And so I was like, man, who is, man? And he had that great team at Willow Ridge High School, TJ Ford, all those good, Daniel Ewan, all those guys were just amazing. And so I went to the Texas Basketball Association, and I sat and I watched him give his presentation, and he showed us this drill, and then he talked to us, and he showed us another drill, and then he talked to us, and it was the easiest talk I ever been to. And I remember sitting in that talk, and I told him this. I said, ain't no way this dude is doing this and winning championships. It's no way. There's no way he's doing this. And I'll be goddamn if when I got the job, okay, when you spoke up for me, I went to go meet the man. He let me in. And the first day, what is he doing? The dang drill that he said he was doing in the Texas High School Association. And I said, wow. So not only does he walk the talk, but he talks the talk. He did. And the reason why I bring that up is because we all know that some coaches, when they go and give the talk at the Texas High School Coaching Association, you're showing stuff you don't do, or you're doing stuff that you know you don't do. And so you just trying to throw people off. He wasn't like that. Very transparent, very honest. As a leader, I learned how to lead from being a part of his staff. And that was the absolute best time I ever had coaching. Man, with you on the staff, Coach Courtney on the staff, Coach Michael Wiggins on the staff. Oh, man, we had some great times there. Looking at that as an assistant principal, and just the opportunity to work with a Hall of Fame coach. And then all of you guys made me better as well, too. You care about kids in a way that is just unrivaled. And if, no matter where I'm at, sir, if you ever need a job, not only do you care about kids, but you care about people. And I know that there are many people who work with you who will fight over you. Like straight up. Nobody, you can't say nothing bad about Coach Gabriel. And I appreciate that because I saw that when you were across the aisle from me at another school. And I saw that when I was working with you. And I know that's what you're doing right now. So I want to give kudos to you and looking out for me when I was just down and out. You was like, hey man, don't give up, man. You come with us. Come over here. And I was like, nah, man, I'm gonna get out, man. I think I'm gonna go to nursing school. You was like, nurse, man, you ain't no nurse. I know he's gonna go there, the big nurse, huh?
I think the beauty of, if anybody out there listening to take away from this show, I'm so glad I honor to be on, is that if you allow yourself to handle situations with selfless living and dignity, you don't know who you can be a blessing to and how those things can come back and circumvent themselves and elevate you later. And everything you do for other people might not manifest to an immediate reward, but there's things that are orchestrated and moved that will be working on your behalf and for your good at the time that it's needed the most. And all this could have been avoided. This show would have been avoided had Coach Jeffrey not gave a first-year coach an opportunity to apologize humbly and take the time to talk to him and to mentor and to share wisdom. That all been avoided. There'd be no show. There'd be no show. I just wouldn't be on it. And that can be something you take away as to say, you don't know what people are dealing with or how they're dealing with things. And even in the pandemic, how people are struggling still with families and losses and ways to live. And post-traumatic COVID-19 is a real thing.
Yeah.
There are post-traumatic situations that people deal with, be it either a loss of death in a family or permanent damages or illnesses in their own physical bodies or social anxiety, suicide rates. Those things, you don't know what and who you're dealing with. And as my mother would say, if you can travel and you can help somebody along the way, and your living will not be in vain. And we're byproducts of people helping us, because Courtney is a pillar for both of us because he helped. He could have been arrogant. He could have took people with more experience, with better resumes and more titles and cachets. He didn't do that. He adhered to what he heard because he's been in that predicament before, and we're the byproducts of that.
Yeah, 100%, man. And I appreciate you. Again, like y'all said, you're one of the best coaches that I do know. We talk basketball all the time, and I probably will never coach again simply because I know you're going to try to play me. No, sir. No, sir. I'm never going to coach again because I know who the first person who is going
to give me a game.
No, sir. I already know. We'll go ahead and take this to my grave. These two, I'm going to go ahead and call it. We're 1-2. Okay. I got the 2. Okay. It's not official though. It's not official. In the books, it's 2-0.
We know you're hiding. Once a hider, always a hider.
Oh, yeah, it's all good, man. It's all good. Hey, my man, it was great talking to you. Where can our listeners find you at on social?
Coach Gaves, what is CoachGabes, Gaves on Instagram. Coach Gaves with a K, same way on Twitter. And I think that's the only one. And it's Cypress Ridge Basketball is also another way that you can find me at Cypress Ridge B-Ball on Twitter as well.
Is there anything your basketball team needs, any donations or if somebody wants to donate money to your team, how could they do that?
Contact me directly. Email me at Marcus, Gabriel at CFISD.net and get directly in contact with me. If you ever want to do anything charitable, we do appreciate that. We have a very low failure rate, which I'm always super proud of. Our discipline rate is also low as well. And I have great kids who are deserving of great things. They've done a great job fundraising. But we never say no to anyone with a charitable spirit. Be it $1, be it $100, be it $100,000, whoever that is. We really do appreciate that.
It was one thing I can remember is fundraising as a basketball coach. I do remember that. So you always need balls. You always need gear. You always need tennis shoes. Their kids need. It's a good thing. I'm not saying that your kids need, but I'm saying that it's good to be able to provide for anybody who's in need. And I know that's important for you. And I know you like that. So I said it for you. I'm sorry, sir.
I appreciate it. Yeah. I appreciate the charity.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, my man. Well, thank you for coming on the show.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Today's Flip Tip is brought to us by CEO of Flipboard, Mike McHugh.
Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to put a Flipboard widget on your home screen. One of the great features of iOS is widgets. Widgets are like snippets of content that you can access quickly just by swiping from your home screen. Now, while widgets have been around for a while, in iOS 14, you can take those widgets and actually put them on your home screen where all of your app icons are. And this is really cool. Okay, so let's start by creating a Flipboard widget. To do that, just swipe to the right from your home screen and you'll see all the widgets. Tap and hold, and then tap on Edit Home Screen. Now you'll see a plus in the upper left corner. Go ahead and tap that, and you'll see all the different widgets that you can add. So let's scroll down here and add Flipboard. Tap that, and now I can choose the layout that I want to use. I can do a 4-up, I can do a 2-up, I can do a single story wide, or a single story narrow. So let's go ahead and add the 4-up. Just tap Add Widget, and there you have it. So now I have Flipboard in my widgets, and this will show me the first 4 stories in my For You feed. Now, I can also take this widget and put it at the top of all of my other widgets just by dragging and dropping. And there you have it. So now Flipboard is just a swipe away if I want to see quickly what's in my For You feed. So just from my home screen, just swipe to the right, and there you go. If I see a story I'm interested in, I can just tap on it, and Flipboard launches right away, and I can see the story, and then come right back to my widgets. So now let's add Flipboard to the home screen. Go to your home screen, tap and hold, and then that same plus button appears in the upper left. Tapping that will bring up your list of widgets. I'll go back here to Flipboard, and then in this case, I'll choose a 2-up layout so that it uses a little less screen real estate. I'll hit Add Widget, and there we go. Now I have Flipboard right on my home screen. Now there's one more thing to show you. If you want to have the Flipboard widget not just show you your For You feed, but maybe show you your daily edition, or 10 for today, or Flipboard picks, you can do that in the Flipboard settings. Just open up Flipboard, go to your profile, tap on settings, and adjust the widget settings right down here. So I'll just go ahead and pick daily edition. And now the daily edition is on my home screen. So there you have it, Flipboard on your home screen. I hope this was helpful. Keep on flipping.
Flipboard fam, thanks for sticking with me on this episode. I want to thank Coach Marcus Gabriel for talking with us about coaching basketball in the pandemic. Also want to give a special thanks and shout out to Aileen Laylor and Crystal Vanderboom for the editorials on the Flipboard Educators blog. Remember to subscribe to our Flipboard EDU magazine on flipboard.com. Our show will resume in 2 weeks with special guest Lisa Dabbs. You can read about this episode and other episodes on our Flipboard EDU podcast magazine. Follow our podcast on all major platforms. And don't forget to share our podcast with an educator or colleague. Our podcast is available globally and everywhere you listen to podcasts for free. So until next time, family.